Strange things are afoot at the Circle K.
That kid is back on the escalator again.
Ain't gonna hurt.
Is my boomstick!
Game over, man. It's game over.
Welcome to the Bargain Bin. He is your host, Ben Mason.
And he's your co-host, Sandro Luketic. And today we're talking 2025's Wolfman. As always, we assume if you're listening to this episode, you have already seen the film. Sandro, werewolves, you know I love them. I've put you through hell watching a bunch of werewolf films. What is your least favorite werewolf movie I've made you watch?
The Howling.
I knew you were going to say that, but why?
It was boring.
Fair. What's the best one I've made you watch?
I'm leaning Late Phases.
Oh, that's a good... Late Phases is fantastic.
Yeah.
Nick D'Amici, can't really beat him. Although The Howling did have Dick Miller.
But if I wanted... It did. I mean, I didn't say that the movie was a 0 out of 10. It gets 1 for having Dick Miller. Maybe 2.
Okay. All right.
If I was going to go for a more action-based one, though, Dog Soldiers would be in the conversation.
Dog Soldiers is a fantastic film.
But Dog Soldiers doesn't have the same, like, atmosphere and kind of, like, tenseness that, like, Late Phases did, which still had some action, of course, right?
Yeah.
And it had Nick D'Amici.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Dog Soldiers was an action horror, whereas Late Phases was just a horror film that happened to have some action.
Yeah, so, like, this one, I'd say is firmly in the middle. It's not really the best or the worst. Spoiler for my thoughts on it.
It's a very interesting take on the mythos, and we'll get into that. I have a few questions for you about that, but
I'm going to ask you one first.
Go for it.
You always ask me this, and I figure it's only proper to ask because it is such a recent movie and we don't do it very often. What is your history with this movie and indirectly the reason you picked it?
I actually have almost no history with this film, but you know how much I love werewolf films. And Leigh Whannell, the director, also did The Invisible Man a few years ago. And I thought that was a brilliant reimagining of that story. I mean, you love H.G. Wells. I love H.G. Wells. So having someone put such an interesting, refreshing, and decent spin on an old story, I was very excited to see what he was going to do with the Wolfman. And I can tell, obviously, you're not the biggest fan, but I was impressed with what he did. But really, the reason why I wanted to see it is because I've been very impressed with Leigh Whannell's work. You and I agree that Upgrade is probably one of the best films we've seen in the last 20 years, right?
Not only one of the best, one of the most underrated movies that I try to shoehorn and tell people in conversations about as often as I can.
Yeah, same. One of my favorite movies of all time. But this is also Leigh Whannell, like co-creator and writer of Saw. Like, he's a horror pedigree, really. So hearing that he was going to have a Wolfman film come out, I was really excited because I was horribly disappointed with the 2010 remake with Benicio del Toro. It had some really great parts, but I felt for the most it was a wash. I did not feel that way about this. And it's not the movie I wanted. It's not the movie I expected. But I'm happy that it's the movie that I got.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah. Especially for having a relatively unknown cast and a modest budget for a theatrical release film. Also, it was written by Whannell and his wife, Corbett. So it really does seem like it was a labor of love, and I feel like that really came across in the film.
Well, I'm going to say this right now, and obviously it's lack of my movie knowledge. I don't know anybody in this cast prior to watching this movie. And if I did see them in anything, I completely forgot the existence of the game we used to play and didn't do any of the research.
That's okay, because I'm pretty sure there's only one person in this movie that you would have seen.
Okay.
And that is the guy who plays Derek, whose name I'm forgetting right now.
You just said it. It's Derek.
Well, no, the actor's name. But Benedict Hardy plays Derek, and you will know him as the lead human villain from Upgrade.
Oh, okay. Don't think I would have put that together, but hey, that's still pretty cool.
I didn't until I looked it up. I just kept looking at this guy and I'm like, I know him from somewhere. I don't know where. What is this? And I found, like, spoilers, like, pretty quick demise. I really liked his character a lot, and I was hoping that we'd have him throughout most of the film. But yeah, that didn't happen.
No.
He had maybe like 2 minutes of screen time.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Do you wanna hop right in?
Yeah.
Okay. So the opening shot of the wasp being attacked by ants. I'm going to sound like an idiot to anybody who knows what's going on, but I don't get it.
Hey, you're not on that island by yourself, because I have no idea what's going on. This scene felt to me like one of those scenes in a movie that's trying to be too smart for its own good and does. It's like Emperor's New Groove, the movie.
Yes.
It's like it just wants people to think it's profound because they can't admit that they don't get what they're trying to say.
I agree completely, man. It's a beautiful shot, horrific for sure, but I'm missing something. I'm missing the intended point, and am I dumb for that? Maybe, or is it just pointless? Possible.
Well, in that case, we're dumb for it, because I admit I don't get it either.
Yeah, we get an overlay about a hiker who went missing in the mountains of Oregon in 1995. Some people thought he contracted an animal-borne virus they referred to as Hill's fever, and the indigenous people referred to it as, I apologize for my pronunciation here, Maingan Odinguan, or Face of the Wolf. Now, I think this is a really interesting take on the mythos, but how do you feel about that?
So, I know this is a werewolf movie.
Is it, though?
I mean, let's see what I have to say here.
Okay.
The feeling that I got with this lore is that it was more of a Wendigo movie.
Yes, thank you. I feel the exact same way.
And I know that there are some very, very prominent parallels between the two when it comes to movies and plot and lore and things like that. But it really gave me that vibe. And honestly, I think with the kind of smaller amount of Wendigo movies out there, it might have benefited from just taking that leap and doing it that way.
I'd never really thought about it, but yeah, I agree with you. I do love the Wendigo quite a bit. I would have been okay with this being a Wendigo film, which actually is a really good point for you to bring up, because one of the complaints I had about this movie is when we first see a wolf man, it's late morning.
Yeah.
So that completely negates the whole full moon thing.
Yeah, the full moon seems to not be relevant to that mythos here at all. And they really should have gone in a different direction.
Oh my God. Here we went to go again. No, really though, because like there's no transforming back. Like once you turn into the wolf, you are the wolf. And that's where I think your Wendigo idea makes the most sense.
But yeah, because it's not like you can go back, right? Like they don't at any point in this give you the impression that once you turn, you will become like a human form again at any point.
Yeah. And I originally thought at least this is something fresh and new. But until you brought that up, I never realized that they just appropriated the mythos of another cryptid. That's very interesting. Great call, man. Great call. I missed that altogether.
Well, that's what I'm here for.
Yeah. All right, so Grady Lovell and his young son Blake get their hunting gear together and head into the woods. Do you find it strange how strict this house is run? Because as soon as Blake wakes up, he makes his bed military style.
Honestly, no. Seen this kind of, you can even call it stereotype if you want, but this like kind of mentality of military personnel that's how they would raise their family. And like, it just seems like, yeah, it's a strict military family. That's what they do. And then it also might imply a little bit more why they're more interested in hunting. I don't see the accountant family doing this, right? So
Fair.
I didn't actually think anything of it prior to this. It added up to me.
Yeah, but then if he's so astute as soon as he wakes up to know, like, make my bed as professionally as possible, I find it really weird that he would daydream and wander off so easily in the woods when he's with his father.
True, but I mean, that's a difference between action and like just a thought process, right? Like, yes, he's an imaginative person. We don't know that he actually believes in this military lifestyle, but he can conduct the actions such as making the bed as he's told to do, but he can't like live it and believe it.
Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying. What's your take on the setting of rural Oregon?
I mean, I have no thoughts either way. It's perfectly fine, right? Like it's a scenically appropriate wilderness setting for what should be a werewolf movie.
Yeah, beautiful private farmland. Yeah, it's stunning. Like the forests, everything. When Blake breaks away from his father and wanders off into the woods, he sees the creature through the scope of his rifle. How did you feel about that reveal?
Well, I mean, you get a passing look, like a glance, right? And I think that that's the right way to do it because it builds a little bit of intrigue. Yes, it could be the creature. It could be something, close to it. It could be a figment of the imagination. I think you need to leave just that little bit of skepticism there.
Yeah, I'm not one for jump scares, but I feel like this is the first scare we've had in the movie, and it's probably one of the best examples of a jump scare done well that I've seen since The Exorcist 3. I was taken immediately, but I also watched this movie at night when there was a snowstorm outside, so I was feeling all cozy and just I wanted to watch a scary film, and it got me. It got me right away. So I think maybe the first scare was so good that I just got wrapped up in the rest of the movie, and I think I may have liked it more than I should have.
Well,
but
who's to say how much you should have liked it?
Me, I guess. Grady finds Blake and scolds him before they're both chased into a deer blind. Only a few minutes in, and tension is already running high. I'm completely invested. The use of sound and seeing the breath of the creature rise up over the edge of the blind brought me in even deeper. I really want to hear about how you interpreted this scene, how this scene made you feel, because I think it was a masterwork.
In retrospect or at the time?
Give me both.
So at the time, I really liked it. I thought it was well done. I thought that they were doing a good job not showing us the creature. I don't like when movies do that too early or without any sort of like thematic presence. So like, yeah, I was invested. It's like, okay, let's see a glimpse of him in the scope. Let's see the breath. Let's hear the sounds, right? I really thought that the camera was going to turn around and the kid was going to be gone. The way that they have the shot of the dad, which I don't even know his name or whatever, but like, he's kind of
Grady.
He tosses Blake, behind him, and he's aiming so intently in front of him. I thought that he was going to lose focus and then turn around and Blake was gone, not knowing at that time that this is going to be the main character for the rest of the story, right? But I was all for it. I didn't really like it as much in retrospect because I think it set me up for something that this movie didn't end up becoming.
Yes, that is my biggest complaint about this film. Although, going back to your point, I would have loved to have seen Grady turn around and just see like Blake's feet dangle over the top of the blind as it disappears over the edge. I think that would have been like hilarious.
That. And like I was expecting in this moment for Grady to be the main character, right? And really would have been fine. You don't need to do the time jump and whatever. Like the story would have worked that way as well. And in the back of my mind, you know how I am. I'm like, don't do it to the kid. Don't do it to the kid. Like it's no. But I mean, it was a good setup. And honestly, the way that they did the camera work, focused on him from the front without like showing Blake. I'm like, if that was what they were gonna do, they did it perfect. And then they didn't do it.
Yeah, it was a weird setup with pulling focus that, yes, you are completely right. It would have been perfect to do that. And they kind of let us down with that. I love the misdirect of the creature coming up the ladder, and you see the breath like come up over the side of the blind. And as Grady's got his rifle ready and aimed, you just see the breath come up the backside of the blind behind Grady's back. It's like, oh, it's a perfect sneak attack. And yes, I thought he was going to grab Blake too. Honestly, you brought up the time jump. I would have been more than happy if this entire film was just Grady and Blake trying to survive this creature in the woods.
Honestly, I would have been fine if it was Grady trying to survive. Like, I'm not saying that I wanted it to happen, but if Blake was literally killed off by the werewolf in this scene, and then Blake ran home and there was, say, a daughter that he didn't take hunting, and she could fit the same role as the daughter in the time jump, would have been all for it.
Yeah, because child Blake, let's not kid ourselves, he's the shits. He sucks.
I mean, he's neither. He's not in the movie enough there that he honestly could have been used as just a plot device.
Exactly. And then we're slapped in the face when he becomes our, I can't even really say protagonist. Well, for part of the film, I guess. The bleeding of the deer that distracts the creature, I thought was brilliant. And that thing is gutted when Grady looks over the edge of the blind. I'm so into this movie right now. Unfortunately, it changes over time. But yeah, I love the fact that it's early day, so the stereotypical werewolf tropes don't exist. But that's why I think you were right in saying this should have been a Wendigo film. We cut to the basement of Grady's house where he's on the CB talking to some guy who seems to know exactly what he's talking about, this creature. So I have a question for you, Sandro.
Yeah.
If he knew that thing was out there in the woods, why would he take his son out there?
No idea. I hated that. I absolutely hated that. It's like, unless there's some level of arrogance, I'd like, don't go out there with your child.
Well, that's just it. He rips on him for not listening about the name of death cap mushrooms. But there's a murderous werewolf out there. They'd be like, you know what? Fuck the mushrooms. Like, pay attention for this monster that's hunting us. You know what? Grab a handful of the mushrooms. If it gets close to you, ram it down its throat. Like, it just seems so out of place.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, 30 years later, how do you find Blake 30 years later?
He's a bit of a wiener.
Right? Perfect term for it. Perfect term. Yeah, we see grown-up wiener Blake and his daughter Ginger in the big city. Apparently Ginger was named after Ginger Snaps. I don't know if you know those films.
I'm aware of them. I've never actually watched them.
All right. Watch the first one is really, really good. After that, not so much. But Canadian werewolf films, very, very good. The can you guess what I'm thinking right now? Scenes pop up repeatedly throughout the movie. What's your take on that?
I'm torn on them. And to explain why would be to discuss happenings later.
I mean, you can do that because I think it's really stupid, but I want to hear the point of view of a parent.
I think it's stupid as well.
Okay.
Not to say that there isn't obviously many like things that are probably seen as kind of silly or stupid on the surface for, people that, just see you interacting with your children. But like you do a lot of those things just because the children find it fun and it's for them, right? Mm-hmm. As a part of the movie, I was not a fan of it. And it did end up being very profound to me when we have the scene later when he can't reciprocate it. Because it's very difficult in a movie like this to put a lot of weight into the child's perspective of it. And by doing it this way, you can actually show the emotion and the realization of loss in the child when it happens later that he can't reciprocate.
Do you think we needed Ginger as a character in this movie, though?
No.
right?
No, it could have just been him and his wife going there, and like all he needed was a reason to protect the house, right?
Yeah. Yep.
It's fine. It's fine.
But it should have just been a siege film.
Yeah, I
Like,
guess it's got to raise the stakes, I guess, a little bit.
Yeah. Because it's pretty heavy-handed. Like, can you guess what I'm thinking right now? I love my little girl. Sure. We don't need that emotion, though, because I think I the actor, Christopher Abbott, I think his name is, who played Blake, was such a dick in this movie. Like, he's just an embarrassing wiener, like you said. I realized as the movie progressed, he's actually just a really good actor. And that's exactly what we were supposed to feel seeing him early on compared to how we see him at the end of the movie. But then we have Charlotte, Ginger's mother and Blake's wife, played by Julia Garner, who I know as Ruth from Ozark. And anybody listening to this who hasn't watched Ozark, I highly recommend it. Blake gets documents detailing his inheritance from the death of Grady, which is basically his estate. Yeah, I guess Grady just went missing and the state declared him deceased without having a body.
30 years later.
30 years later.
That was my biggest issue with it, was that it's like 30 years later, oh, I got the documents to go and pack up my dad's house. It's like, okay, dude.
And I'm thinking, if you have to wait, like 24 or 48 hours before you can legally report somebody missing, 30 years to report someone dead seems to be a bit much.
Yeah.
That's all you have to say is yeah?
It's so dumb. I have no comment.
It's so dumb. It's like, so stupid.
You could have easily written something very basic in there, like, we've now declared him dead because we found some of his belongings or whatever, right? He had we found a body in the woods and we matched the dental records. Like, just something, exactly. Right? Like, it's not like it required some sort of amazing writing to get around it. You just needed to do something.
And yes, completely. And I think by them not doing that, they ruined the twist of the movie. Because as soon as it was announced that they declared him dead because they couldn't find him, I knew he was going to be the Wolfman.
Yeah, I'm not calling it a twist.
I guess, yeah. It was kind of like crammed down your throat, wasn't it?
It's like, no way. I know this is going to be the case. There's no twist here.
And did you watch that 2010 Wolfman movie?
No, I didn't.
Okay, well, you should, because it does have some really interesting scenes. But they do the one thing that I never, ever want to see in a werewolf movie, and they do it again in this film. And that is werewolf versus werewolf. I don't fucking care. I don't. I'm watching the Wolf Man, not the Wolf Men. And like when you've got multiple werewolves, they work together, it seems. Like, I don't want to see wolf on wolf crime. I want one monster fighting people, or people fighting monster. It depends on who you want to pick sides with.
I guess it is a contradiction to the very title of the movie, Wolfman. Nope.
Yeah. Wolfmans. I hate it. I hate it so much. And it's the exact same fucking thing they did in the 2010 one. It's father versus son, and I don't care. They didn't do it right the first time. You're not doing it right now. Don't even bother. You had a good thing going here. You had a really good thing going with this amazing creature. And you already subverted the mythos of the cryptid. You're doing your own thing. You're making it great. Why would you go and ruin it? Why would you go and ruin it by doing what made the other movie fail?
I honestly think I would even have enjoyed it more if the Wolf Man killed Grady and Blake wanted some semblance of revenge. Right?
Perfect.
Even that, I'd be like, okay, cool, sure.
Yeah. One Wolfman. One. We don't need more. We don't. Unless it's werewolves, which is great with Frank Grillo. Anybody who hasn't checked that out, please do. It's a lot of fun. It's The Purge with werewolves. But then it just it ruined. It ruined what could have been an amazing film. And they slap you in the face with it at the beginning.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There's no twist in this movie.
Oh my god!
Like, yeah, they try to hide it from you, but I guarantee you, 99% of people watching the movie right away are going to be like, "Yeah, it's Grady."
Yeah, they're not hiding anything. They're just not saying it. It's right there. It's right there, and you ruined it. Anyway, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
But we do agree that Blake comes across as being very weak, right?
Yeah, I don't like this character. I mean, at this point in the movie, it's fine because you're in a situation where you're like, okay, well, it's not this military character like the father. It's going to be a situation where, an everyman is going to have to somehow overcome these crazy odds. So it's fine at this point in the movie, but like, he never really sheds that.
I disagree. I think he becomes a much stronger character over time. The more he transforms into the Wolfman, I think the better the acting gets. So it really does show me that this was so intentional and that the character himself does grow or transform, if you will, throughout the runtime. But they get a moving truck and head to Oregon to pack up Grady's house. I do enjoy the fact that they kind of throw in that the marriage is breaking down. Julia Garner is a much better actor than they let her be in this film. And I feel like they should have given a lot more attention to this because it's a throwaway bit of information.
I'm actually the opposite. I saw the portion of this where it's like, oh yeah, like the marriage is on the fritz and this and that. And I'm like, okay, that could create some interesting dynamics later. And it's like, it never comes up again.
No, we're just going to throw it away.
To me, it's like, you didn't need to do this.
Yeah, you're right. You're totally right. It could have been great. It really could have been great. Like the slogan on the truck, getting a move on since 1941, which is the year the Wolfman came out.
Oh, that's actually pretty clever. I didn't know that, so.
Yeah, it's also Pierce Moving. I think that's the last name of the guy that did special effects for the Wolfman film.
Oh, okay. So, yeah. I mean, those are nice touches. Obviously, they don't change the movie, but for fans that are more proficient in all of this information, yeah, it's a nice bonus.
I agree. It's attention to detail. And that's like the fact that they had to import the truck because in the country they filmed in, the driver's side is the right hand, not the left hand side. So they went to that extent for detail, and then they just shrugged off any importance about relationships or twists or anything like that. It seems really strange to me.
See, if you're not going to go all out with these story elements, just don't have them in there.
Right?
Husband and wife, perfectly fine relationship. No need to have any sort of conflict. Just need to go out there and pack his dad's stuff up. Cool.
Yeah, I hate you, you hate me, just like a regular marriage.
Now we're in a situation where we have to survive. Good enough. That's all you need from the story.
How does Grady get lost going to his childhood home?
I think they imply that he hasn't been there in a very long time, and I guess with like rural Oregon and whatever, it probably all looks very samey.
I can't go along with that. I find like you would remember how to get to your home.
I mean, I'm not saying I agree with it. I think that's what they were going for.
Oh, definitely.
Honestly, as soon as they're confronted by this character, whose name I also do not know.
Derek?
Sure.
Benedict Hardy from Upgrade. We've been over this.
Yeah, but I'm not saying I know people's names.
Yeah.
It was a wonder I knew any of them. Anyway, whatever.
You definitely just tried to think of someone's name and couldn't do it, right?
Yeah, leave me alone.
Go on.
As soon as we saw Upgrade Dude here, I was like, oh, this is his house, and he's being redirected by villains to another place. And I thought too. I would have been all for that.
Nope, not at all.
He really is just unable to find his old childhood home and needs help finding it.
Although Ginger pointing out Derek in that hunting blind was pretty creepy.
Him just standing there looking at them?
Yeah, it was great. And it would have been a lot more. Yeah, me too. It's great. This movie does really well with scares. And the thing is, the scares don't go anywhere.
No.
That's one of my other big complaints about this film. But he doesn't recognize his apparent childhood friend Derek, but Derek gives them directions in exchange for a ride. And Charlotte is not having it. But she has no reason to not have it. He just looks like a country guy, and apparently that's enough for her to say, don't.
That's a little stereotype. I mean,
Right.
he does look pretty freaking creepy, though, when you see him staring at them in that blind.
You've been in the woods before. They all look like that. That's where I grew up.
I wouldn't be comfortable with that guy. I'm sorry.
Okay, what about the accident, though, that happens? Because they for some reason, he says it's just up the road, and it cuts from daylight to, like, midnight. So, obviously not just up the road. But that accident, that jump scare, what did you think about that?
I like this accident, and I really like the aftermath when they wake up, like, sideways. I was like, oh, I'm all in on this.
It's beautiful. But why would the creature be standing in the middle of the road? Because, as we learn, they die pretty easy.
Still.
So, is it like a deer in headlights? He's like, oh, fuck. And just gets slammed by a truck. And then the movie's over?
And the best part, too, is if it's supposed to be Grady, we'll find out later if it is. He's been in those woods for 30 years. You'd think he can navigate his way around. I didn't know the street was there.
Just hanging around the sides of the road, just eating garbage that people drop as they drive by.
I'm sorry, but in rural Oregon there, probably everybody, like Derek, is walking around with their shotgun. Don't just be standing in the streets.
In Oregon, Grady's already made himself like a suit out of old Starbucks cups at this point, just for protection from the elements. Like this is it makes no sense why he would just be standing in the road. Does he think he's gonna scare the truck? It's like, is that what we're doing here? Does he have an understanding of vehicles? Or is he just caught at the wrong time and they actually veer off the road because Blake doesn't want to hit an animal? Regardless, you're right. It's an amazing accident. The truck flips on its side, slides potentially over the edge of a cliff, but it's held in place by a tree. So good. Derek decides the best option is to open a door and just falls to almost his death. And then gets right murdered real quick.
Oh, I can't tell you how disappointed I was in this moment.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things where you're on the edge of your seat. You're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then he just falls. And you're like, oh, okay.
Yep.
I was more invested in Derek, who we had met 30 seconds previously, than anybody else in this movie.
I really wanted him to be the villain. I was like, this is perfect.
It is. It is perfect. If you have a movie called The Wolfman, everyone's like, all right, this is a werewolf movie. It's going to be some guy versus a werewolf. I can't wait. And you find out that the werewolf is a tertiary character that just keeps popping up randomly as like the threat in the distance, but the actual villain is a human being. That would have been great. I think that would have been fantastic. Subvert our expectations. Don't give us something that happened before and do it even worse than the poorly done job that came before it. But
I'll be honest with you, man. The more I'm talking about it, my opinion is dropping of the movie.
Yeah, mine too. You're not alone there. This is good though. This is why we're doing this, like to hash this out. Because when I first watched this movie, I loved it. I watched it again, I loved it even more. I watched it a third time, I loved it even more. And now that I'm talking about it, I'm realizing I'm really dumb. But in the whole like attack on the truck, the window gets smashed in by the Wolfman's paw, I guess, and scratches Blake. Fine. It's a cool scene. It's very inventive. I don't know how I feel. Like, I'm talking about how great it is that they're throwing new things about the mythos at us. I would rather it be a bite from a werewolf that turns someone else into a werewolf instead of being scratched, because that seems really cheap to me. But it does push the story forward.
I'm not happy with it.
Okay, why is that?
Well, if it just takes a scratch, this should not be Wolfman. It should be Wolf County, right? Like, In 30 years,
point.
you're telling me that people didn't get scratched by this thing, and then those people didn't scratch other people. Like, it is way too easy in this lore to become a wolf man for there not to be more wolf men.
Yes, I can't argue that. I can't. Because they're such good hunters, apparently, that they can sneak up on people all the time. Although the thing is, I guess, nobody really survives an encounter with the Wolfman. They're just killed by the Wolfman. So that's the
Okay.
only...
So again, then, but in 30 years, no one has accidentally even, like, Blake did not escape this conflict and this confrontation through his sheer skill and determination as a military man or a hunter. He dummied his way through it. And you're telling me that in 30 years, nobody else did?
That's a very good point. And that's something I would have loved to have seen, that like end the movie this way. We stick with Grady and Blake from the beginning, and eventually Grady gets turned at the end, and that's the end of the movie. Downbeat, downtrodden, really depressing. Perfect. Also leads you into a sequel. With this, it's a lot of shut up, don't think about it.
Honestly, at this point, it's like one of those situations where the final shot of the movie should have been a survivor, whoever the hell you decide is going to be, driving away. And then the camera pans out, you just see a whole town of these werewolves coming out of the forest and stuff like that, and be like, yeah, that makes sense. That would have happened.
Yeah, it would have. That almost feels more like a Tales from the Crypt ending, though.
I don't care.
If
this is the setup you've given me.
That's true. It is. They dropped the ball. What did you think about the race towards the farmhouse from the accident?
It was fine. A little bit of action. It's not like we're going to get that much of it in this movie.
No, but did you see in that one split second as they're running, the Wolfman come out of the woods after them?
No, I didn't.
Oh my God. You have to go back and just look at that one scene. It is disturbing. Like, I got chills. I think that might actually be in my awards. But yeah, no, it was so intense that, like, I wasn't even paying attention. I'm like, yeah, okay, you see scared people running for safety all the time in horror films. But then this thing just bursts out of the woods after them, and they cut immediately to a different shot. I'm like, wait, what? Go back. It was so good.
Oh, okay.
So good. So the power's out at the house. They get to Grady's house. So they start up the Jenny. I didn't know you could start up a generator from inside the house. That was news to me. I thought you had to be outside and actually, like, work on it. Also, bars on the windows of the house? Smart. Why does only one door have a gate?
Hold on.
Are you looking
Whose
it
house
up?
is this? Whose house is this?
It's Grady's house.
Okay, so Grady turned into a werewolf 30 years ago. Who put the bars up on the window?
They were already there.
Were they?
We have to assume that because he knew the thing was in the woods, and he's a military guy. He's very
Okay.
uptight.
Well, that creates another problem in my mind. Then, if you know about this thing to the point that you're putting bars on your window, that makes even less sense that you would be outside with your son hunting.
It also makes less sense that you would put up a generator outside and not have some sort of cage around it.
So I just can't I can't.
Yeah. No. You are in the right to be upset about certain elements of this film because they make you want to believe something that you just can't because they drop the ball again. And again, it's the what am I thinking scene, which we don't need. Do you think it's actually like the film's trying to build Charlotte's character when it shows her listening to Blake and Ginger talking?
I honestly have no idea throughout the entire duration of the movie what they're doing with Charlotte.
Me neither. It's aimless, which is a shame because she's such a good actor.
Especially if you're gonna turn Blake, which obviously we know they are. Surprise, surprise to anybody who hasn't caught on yet. You have an opportunity here to, in the background, build her as the reluctant hero of the movie moving forward. But honestly, it just seems like after Blake has converted more and, they are essentially on their own, that she just stumbles through the rest.
Yeah. Do you give a shit about Charlotte?
No.
No, me neither. Do you think we should?
I think she should have been the wolf man, and then I would have cared a bit more.
They keep trying this, but it doesn't go anywhere. And yeah, if you want to do that twist and make Charlotte the wolf man or wolf woman, wolf person, whatever, I don't give a fuck. It would have been at least refreshing and given her more purpose. Because first of all, we don't like Blake. We know this. He's going to be the wolf man. We get it. I'm more invested in Blake because of his transformation. But Blake going up against his wife, who is turning into a monster while they were trying to save their marriage at the beginning of the film. Now it's not just stay together for Ginger's sake, but it's staying alive. You're fighting for your daughter's life. You're fighting for your life against the person that you married and that you love. That would be brilliant. But no, we don't get that either.
No, you don't.
So Blake tries using his father's old CB equipment, and then we kind of get the transformation starting here with a heightened sense of smell. Thoughts on that?
I'm fine with it.
It's par for the course, right?
Yeah. I also have more issues later on with like the hearing and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So the heightened sense of smell, I'm just like, yeah, okay, all right, show me some elements. Obviously, some changes have to exist.
They're like trying to eat that jerky that he sought out, and then his teeth start falling out. As I was watching this in preparation for this episode, I started getting worried about the body horror elements and how you're going to deal with it. Did you have any problem with that?
No, but This brings me back to my thing on like the Wendigo. I did not think that was normal jerky, and it would have made a lot more sense in a Wendigo movie.
Yeah. It would have been great if like Charlotte ate some too and her teeth fell out. It's just horrible jerky. It's just like rock hard.
Well, I thought like, oh, it's human jerky, right? Which would have worked great in a Wendigo
for the
movie.
Wendigo, of course. We need to make a Wendigo film.
I think we can do a better job.
Oh, definitely. I have a note here saying Christopher Abbott's acting here is fantastic. He really feels like a weak character at the beginning, but his aggression grows over time, and he's really good. And I believe that. I really do. But this is where we get the heightened sense of sound, I guess. His hearing. What was your problem with that?
Well, the impression that I get from it is that, yeah, it's heightened for things at a distance, but he can't hear anything near him.
Yeah, it's very selective for what the film wants it to be. Now, the whole spider thing, it sounds like there's something in the walls, but it's just a spider's legs as it like crawls along a wall. I thought that was pretty brilliant, but I really wanted it to be the Wolfman inside the walls of the house.
100%. I didn't hate it too much when it happened because I did think, oh, okay, cool. Like, it's a subversion. It's done pretty decently that it's the spider. But, oh, how I would have rather that it actually was a Wolfman.
Yeah. And, like, it's... like, the fear is there. He's not quite in the house, but he's in the house. I think that would have been phenomenal. Overall, okay, we're roughly halfway, a little bit more than halfway into the movie. How are you feeling about it at this point?
I'm still enjoying it, but I'm thinking, like, man, they gotta stack the deck in the second half of, like, action and stuff. Hey, maybe the twist is not that it's Grady, because we know it's not, or we know it is. But how about the twist is later that there is actually multiple Wolfmen? Okay?
Yeah, like, even when I'm watching this for the first time and I'm loving it, I'm checking my watch being like, all right, guys, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Like we're starting to run down on this runtime. I need to see something, show me something fun.
Yeah.
And they do, in my opinion, with just seeing the creature walk past the kitchen windows as Grady's in the kitchen. As Blake's in the kitchen. I thought it was perfect. And it breaks through a panel of the door and grabs Blake's leg and trying to like pull him outside. Tense scene, man. They got me with that.
Yeah, okay.
You didn't like that?
I think I'm liking this less and less as I talk about it. But it's like, why are you like showing me how the like hot dog is made here? Like, do something.
Yeah.
Like, Okay, cool.
Yeah.
He's walking by. So let's not even try to do any sort of like misdirect at this point. It's just, what are you doing?
Okay, you say, what are you doing? But after this is when we get, like, did you notice that Blake's movement is becoming more animalistic?
Oh, why is that?
Okay. All right, Debbie Downer.
Oh, because we're supposed to expect him to convert. We see that. We know that.
Yeah. But, okay, the distorted sound of Charlotte using the CB, like, he doesn't understand human language anymore.
Yeah, because there's no turning back. You're now werewolf, and that's it.
What did you think about the use of color for, like, werewolf vision or whatever the hell it is?
I don't think we need it.
Really? I loved it. I think I loved it because it hasn't been done. And normally when they do, like, monster vision or anything like that, it's, like, a lot of red and yellow, and everything's just, like, blurry because it's moving too fast. But, like, bringing in those really brilliant neon colors, even, like, the eyes of people are, like, the pupils are neon yellow, and it's striking. I really enjoyed how creative that was, how original that was. And we get to see it a couple of times. It's not overused. That is one of my favorite parts of this movie. It was original. It felt right. It wasn't overdone. It was just, I don't know. It added something to what is an overtired genre for me.
I think I would have preferred that even if it went to like more black and white and we were like, oh, the canine element of it means he's colorblind. Fine.
Yeah. We've seen that before though. And I wanted something fresh and something new. And this gave it to me in a way where I believed it could be a thing. But then you have to be like, I'm watching a movie about werewolves. So it's not real. There's nothing real about it. But it was inventive, and it didn't hit you over the head with it. It was just refreshing. At this point, Blake's starting to look pretty rough. He almost looks burned, didn't you think?
Yeah.
It was weird. It was really weird. Do you want to go into what's happening to him, or do you want me to do it?
Yeah. What's happening? I actually don't know. What's happening to him? Is he turning into a zombie? Did he get sick?
No, he's turning into a Dracula.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. One of those weird hairy Draculas.
Yeah.
But no, his hair's falling out, which I find weird for a wolf man.
You'd think more would be popping up, but sure.
Yeah, exactly. His skin's all fucked up. Can't speak properly, can barely write. What did you think about him scrawling on that piece of paper, trying to convey his emotions? And he just scrawls dying on it.
I was okay with that. It was almost like he's lost the ability to comprehend their language, I guess, verbally, because he can still write it. I'm not sure about that exactly. But it was like, that was his like feeble last attempt to communicate with them. And that was like all he could muster up. I was okay with that.
I thought it was fantastic. Yeah, I agree. It was his last attempt at legit communication, I think. Again, the neon, he's seeing things differently, can't understand human speech. They actually ran the dialogue. They recorded the dialogue and ran it in reverse over the actual regular dialogue, which I found really interesting.
No.
So his arm starts bleeding even more. And this scene is insane. And this is the one scene I thought you'd have a problem with.
Oh, when he's like scratching and it's all falling apart?
It's festered to the bone. Yeah, and he starts scratching it and then eventually gnawing at it. Don't watch this movie with headphones on if you can't deal with sound like that. It's rough. It almost made me throw up.
Maybe this is telling to how invested I was, because I didn't care.
No. It came across as more of demonic possession than werewolf transformation, I thought.
This is the thing. It's like very little of this felt like werewolf stuff to me.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, all of his skin is coming off? Why? So he can grow fur? You can grow fur on your skin.
Oh, I do it all the time.
Geez, this could have been... Look at his face and his arm. You'd be like, oh, this is a flesh-eating disease movie.
Cabin fever.
Like, what are you doing, movie? Shouldn't have to keep asking this. What are you doing, movie?
I had an expectation of how you'd feel about this film, and now I think I was wrong.
Okay.
But they finally try to make an escape because I don't know why they didn't think about it earlier. They get to the old truck, which doesn't start. Blake's transforming very fast at this point, and I love the makeup and the practical effects in this movie. Probably the best I've seen in a werewolf film.
Okay.
It's you have to admit it's much better than the CG bullshit we've been getting over the last few years.
I honestly think that I would be more okay with it if they just didn't try to make it a werewolf movie.
Just a monster?
Just make it your own monster. You can do all of these different elements with the lore. There isn't a preconceived notion of what to see. I think I would have enjoyed it more because I go into it expecting a werewolf movie and you give me all of this and cause me to ask, what are you doing multiple times? That creates a disappointment when the quality of it is not terrible, just doesn't fit.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. It doesn't fit at all. They get into the truck. They get the truck running, and the Wolfman attacks. Grady's an idiot of a werewolf. Like, if he's just wandering out into the street in front of a giant moving truck, you're gonna die.
Well,
if you're trying to...
Give him a break. He's new to this.
No, he's not. It's been 30 years.
Exactly!
Like, punching through the windshield? The driver's side. Go through the driver's side window. So much easier. All right, it is intense. I can't say it's not intense. But then they decide to climb on top of the greenhouse?
Well, they were just looking for any higher ground to try and escape. I mean, I can accept this move more than some of the other ones just because this is like, okay, now you're in a panic state and you're just trying something.
Okay.
But
so you're okay with this scene?
I'll give it a pass. I'll say that.
Okay. I hate the almost getting the kid scenes in horror films because it's never really going to happen, right? So it almost seems like they're padding out the runtime there.
You did this to me twice, movie. Blake should have gotten it in the beginning.
Blake uses himself as bait to let the girls get back to the house. Why not let them get back in the truck? You got it running. Get in the truck and get the hell out of there.
Well, he was more just trying to divert. They could have made the decision, hey, we're going to run to the truck.
So Charlotte should have been like, no, let's go to the truck. Our one means of escape that is now up and running and a viable option.
I did like that he was trying to redirect. It was kind of showing that conflict between the remaining elements of his human self, what control he still had over it. Like, I liked that. But yeah, going back to the house, it's like, hey, you're moving backwards here.
Yeah. Yeah. One step forward, two steps back.
Yeah.
Classic Charlotte. In the house, Blake's not doing so well. I think we do get more great makeup effects. But then, of course, Ginger touches his head.
Guys, I'm feeling a little woozy.
A little woozy here. What am I thinking right now? And he can't understand her. So now I get why they kept doing that over and over again, because it is heartbreaking at this point. But at the same time, we don't need it. But at least since they hit us over the head with it so many times, they did actually have a payoff with it. So yeah. I'm okay with it.
And like I said, it's a little bit tougher with, children characters and children actors. This is a great way to kind of up the emotional response to what's going on.
Exactly. Which I think is the only reason they have Ginger in this movie.
For this one moment.
Yeah, exactly. Transformation is quickening, becoming more animalistic. Blake just vomits blood all over the floor, but can still somehow stop himself from killing Charlotte, which I find weird.
Well, he hasn't lost it yet fully, I don't think. It's very faint, but it's still in there right now.
Well, the thing is, I don't think he ever fully loses it. And that is a conflict I have with this movie, because we're going to get to it here. He goes to leave, but the creature, the Wolfman, is on the other side of the door and attacks. And this is what I said before, what I hate. It's the same as the 2010 Wolfman. I don't want to see two werewolves fight, just give me one. We already know the creature is. It's the same as in that movie. It's son versus father. But it's a super short fight, at least. And Blake bites Grady's neck, killing him. And that's when we get the reveal that it's Grady from the tattoo on his arm. And who is surprised by this? Anybody?
Dude, no, I got no answer. it should be nobody.
Exactly. Transformation moving along rapidly. It's the first time we really get to see the transformation happen on screen, which is pretty decent. I think it's not American Werewolf quality, but it's really good.
I'm actually surprised it's moving this quickly. I thought the incubation period was 30 years.
Can you imagine? It took 30 years to play out that one Grady story.
Yeah.
Werewolf Blake is staring at Charlotte through the door's window. I think it's beautiful and horrifying. But he gets back into the house and Charlotte stabs him. And she and Ginger run to the barn. Okay.
Again, not the car, the barn.
The barn. This could be a really good scene. Like the shot of him digging out the dirt from underneath the barn door like a maniac is one of the scariest things I've ever seen. I love the use of the bear trap, catching him at the last second before he gets at them. I thought that was great. Him gnawing off his own foot is insane. And him running through the woods after they escape the barn, Jesus Christ, is horrifying. However, I at no point think he will actually ever hurt them. So it really lessens everything that they just set up for me. Did you feel the same way?
Yeah, I didn't feel like he was as much of a threat as they were trying to make him out to be if he actually did get to them.
Exactly. And why is that? Why do you think that is? Because I've been humming and hawing about this for a while, and I can't figure it out. But he is just not a scary monster.
I wish I could tell you, dude. I have no idea.
Anyway, the women end up back at the wrecked moving truck and then find their way to the old deer blind that we saw at the beginning of the film, which is almost poetic. I get a similar scene of the Wolfman's breath coming up over the top of the blind. But this time, Blake slowly raises his head and it's revealed that he's waiting for Charlotte to shoot him and put him out of his misery. How did you feel about that?
Well, I guess it makes sense that we didn't think he was going to hurt them.
Right? You just neutered yourself, film. Like, why? What are we doing? Like,
that's what I've been asking.
It's almost like giving us a series of really shocking scenes, but letting us know that everything will be okay before those scenes even play out.
I just find it interesting that he was trying that frantically to get to them to stop short and just stand there and wait.
Yeah. Well, she shoots him. she shoots him real good. And honestly, I think it was a pretty heartbreaking scene. It could have been a lot better if the editing had been done a little bit better, a little bit more cohesive, because everything seemed a little shooken up, a little out of place. Specifically the shot of the trees, because we see him as a young child at the beginning of the film looking up and seeing the exact same shot, and it's his pure wonder. And then we see him dying on the ground looking up at the same trees, and it's just a feeling of release and dying and peace. I really enjoyed it, but I think I had to look for that meaning. It didn't come through blatantly. Like, did you get any of that?
No.
See, exactly. And that's good. That's really good. That's my complaint. It's like, I needed this movie to be good, so I was looking for every reason to appreciate what they were putting on screen, because it's kind of a jumbled mess.
It really feels like you're superimposing your idea of this scene into this scene.
Yeah. Oh, and I will get to that.
And you shouldn't have to do that.
I know. The final shot of the movie kills me. And did you notice anything about it, about Charlotte and Ginger?
Come on, don't lead me like that. Just tell me.
Okay, it's the exact same shot of Grady and Blake from the beginning of the movie, staring out over that same wilderness. And for them, it's beauty and adventure, and for them, it's hope and salvation. We start off with father and son, and we end with mother and daughter. I really enjoyed that.
You know how I could have enjoyed that a little bit better if they didn't shoot Blake in the face and there was maybe some suggestion that, oh, the loop will continue 30 years later, Ginger will come here. Like, why mirror that when the plot tells us that it's not the
Over.
same thing? Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, a little, very small part of me was hoping that as they were looking out over that horizon, that Blake just ran by and just wiped out both of them.
Oh, well, that was a movie.
It was a movie. We already talked about the director, Leigh Whannell, and everything he's done and how he wrote this with his wife, Corbett. Do you want to get into numbers, like budget for this? What do you think of the budget for this movie? It was an indie film.
Done this in a while.
It's probably more than you think, but not a lot more.
10.
25.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely a lot more.
Yeah. It's gross.
This is so recent. 30.
Yeah. I should say, yeah, so far the gross. Today is February 18th. 33.9.
Okay.
So close, yeah. IMDb?
7?
5.7.
Okay.
And when we get to Rotten Tomatoes, it's not a lot different. The tomato meter, what did the critics give it?
64.
51. And even the popcorn meter is just a little bit above that if you want to take a guess.
58.
56. Yeah, it's not going over too well.
No, it's not.
Do you want to get into the awards?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
You start us off with least favorite character.
Julia, Garner's Charlotte. Could have been a great character, but came across as weak and pointless. She could have done so much, and she could have been like the lead character of the movie. Should have been. Or the antagonist of the movie. And either would have been great. But she just got lost in a shuffle of something. How do you get lost in the shuffle of 4 characters? How does that happen?
There's 4 characters in the movie, and it feels like 4 characters are inconsequential.
Yeah. No, yourself?
I went with Christopher Abbott as Blake. I think I said it best earlier when I said he was a wiener.
Yeah, he is a wiener.
I did not care for this character.
What about your favorite character then?
I had Christopher Abbott as Wolf Blake.
Yeah, okay, good. I'm with you on that one.
When it came to a lot of the delivery of his lines early in the movie and stuff like that, I really didn't like him. I don't know if that's the intention of, like you said, the movie trying to make you hate this guy or whatever. But just something I didn't like any of the delivery. It felt pretty hokey for a movie that wasn't going for B movie type. Mm-hmm. And I just didn't like it. But when it came to him transformed, I thought his physical acting as the wolf and struggling with the transformation and showing a little bit of hesitation and regret with his body movements and things like that, I thought those were on point.
Yeah. They were fantastic. And I also chose Christopher Abbott as Wolf Blake because he did seem really weak and a wiener. And then once he stopped talking, I loved him a lot more.
Yeah, I think the talking really hurt him.
Yeah, but it wasn't great. But yeah, once he started transforming, I just wanted to see more of him. Being able to emote like that under that many prosthetics, he did a fantastic job. It was great. I was very impressed.
All right. What did you have for your favorite or most memorable line?
I don't have one.
You don't?
No, I couldn't think of a single line in this movie that stuck with me, that resonated. Nothing.
Oh, okay.
You?
So mine, actually, I think the reason that it was so memorable for me is the source. And it's because it was Ginger saying it. But when she says, "Mommy, he wants this to be over." And I felt like that realization and that kind of statement made from the child in the scene is the most powerful part of it.
Well, it also goes hand in hand with "What am I thinking?"
It does, but just he wants it to be over. It's just
it was heartbreaking.
She was his voice in that situation, and it was heartbreaking. So yeah. That was why I went with that line.
That's a fantastic choice. You're right. That probably is one of the best lines in the film.
Part of it was also, limited options.
Yeah. Let's not kid ourselves. The script was not great. Memorable scene?
This isn't going to be a surprise to you because this is who I am now, but it was the first time he couldn't read her mind. And it was more just what it represented to me. And honestly, like, that part just broke me. As much as I didn't like it when it was happening earlier in the movie, what it represented and what it meant later on, because, like, she's doing it, and you're thinking, are they going to try and give you a little hope? No, there's no hope. He can't talk. And, like, that just got me.
That's good. It's very good.
You?
I went with the family running toward the farmhouse and seeing a brief glimpse of the Wolfman running behind them. I've actually had nightmares about that since I first saw this movie.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, it's really good.
And I didn't even notice it.
Well, it's a blink and you'll miss it scene, and it's intentional. Like they did that for a reason. They do that a few times in this movie, where like even when Blake goes downstairs and Charlotte's on the CB, if you're not really looking for it, you can't see the way he's standing in the background. But he's like slightly contorted, and it looks like he's about to attack her.
See, that I noticed, but it was like you had to pay attention because he was pretty much engulfed in shadow. And you're mostly looking at his silhouette to see his posture in that scene. And like, even if you're watching it, like, say, and the lighting is off in the room, you might not even notice his shadow there.
We were watching it. Leah and I were watching it, and she had to point it out to me because I missed it. We had to go back, and I was like, "Oh my god, that is horrifying!"
Like,
so yeah, if you're not looking for it, you're missing out.
Some of the best parts of this movie are just literally how they filmed different shots. Unfortunately, they didn't properly follow up or utilize them. But like I said, you think of like Grady and the way that they're making it look like the focus is on him and, it's going to pan out and Blake's going to be gone. Just some of the shots are so well done, but then they just don't do anything.
Yeah, they drop the ball sometimes. I've said that numerous times in this episode, but they do. It's unfortunate.
All right, so final thoughts on Wolfman.
I'm conflicted. I will not deny that I really, really enjoy this film. Like, it's one of my favorite werewolf movies ever, and that's pretty controversial for a lot of people because most people would even say this isn't a werewolf movie. But I do have to say, while it's an entertaining film, I don't really know what the point Whannell was trying to get across. Does the movie have a point, or is it a film for film's sake? I don't know. I don't feel like there was a message in this movie. But then, does there need to be one? It was an entertaining creature feature for sure, but it is self-contradictory, yet scary. It's inventive, yet suffers from repeating old tropes we've already seen. It's a weird mishmash. I think it mutes itself, but it's filmed well. For the most part, it's acted well. It's somewhat of an original take on the idea of the werewolf, which I really enjoy. So yeah, I really enjoy the movie, but it is horribly flawed. What's your take on it?
Watching the movie, I was pretty neutral on it.
Yeah.
I didn't really love it. I didn't hate it. I was like, yeah, it's fine. It's okay. It definitely set up a lot of things that ended up disappointing me, but like, I didn't feel like, I wasted my time or I regretted watching it. I was like, yeah, it was an okay movie, right? Mm-hmm. Talking about it did not do it any favors because it really just shined a spotlight on all the blemishes, which some probably got by just unnoticed because of how they did it. I'll say this, it's not a good movie. It was an okay, enjoyable movie.
Yeah, at least you didn't hate it, though. I think it's really hard to hate this movie.
No, and that's the thing, right? Like, there are flaws in it, but it's still not terrible. I'd say like the IMDb of about a 5 out of 10 is pretty on point.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not horrible, but it's not great, I guess.
All right, so those are our thoughts on 2025's Wolfman. If you'd like to share your thoughts with us, you can hit us up on social media. We are on Twitter. I'm still calling it that, at BS Bargain Bin. We're on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. Just drop us a comment. Let us know what you think. Maybe you liked it more than we did. Who knows? Ben.
Yo.
That was an interesting choice. Not one I was expecting because it was so recent. How surprised am I going to be on what we're doing next time?
Well, we're going back 30 years, and we're finally tackling another film that we reference in our intro. So I believe this was, episode 156?
I don't.
All right, so we'll say 157. We'll be talking 1995's Mallrats.
Oh my God, Renee dumped you.
You're dumping me? Why are we sitting here trying to figure out where we went wrong with our significant others?
Well, you know what I think's sick? This relationship.
There is something out there that can help ease our simultaneous double loss.
Ritual suicide?
No, you idiot, the fucking mall. Brandy is the past. You face forward, or you face the possibility of shock and damage. Where the hell did that come from? What's going on here? You know about this game show thing they got going on here? Well, we need you guys to somehow ensure that it doesn't happen.
Is that it? We're gonna do that anyway.
Really, why?
What else are we gonna do? Sound Bobby stole a schematic and found a weakness just like the fucking Death Star. Only problem is LaForge. Who's LaForge? You don't know what LaForge is? Phase 1. First you take a run at LaForge with the sock full of quarters. Clock him on his headpiece and knock his ass out cold.
Is that ingenuity or what?
Jesus Christ, you knocked him out.
Now hit him!
Some have to lose fun parties and you can't choose your money to social class. Stuck in that it's hard to pass their social norms and social rules. With social scout, with social rules.
Holy shit! Aren't you?
Oh, Stanley. Hi.
Until next time, have a good one.
All the best.